So that's what we're building, the RV14. It's the tailwheel version. All right, so this is like the first day of actual work. We got a good sized team here today, and we're basically working on prepping the parts and deburring all kinds of skin pieces and little rib bits or whatever the hell they're called.
We had to buy a new part. That was kind of scrap after that.
That's one of our casualties, but this happens. We have casualties, well, we learn. So I think the second line in section 1 of the manual talked about mitigating frustration. So I thought that was pretty interesting, that they know that they need to warn you that frustration will come fast if you allow it to. So you really got to just get into it and start eating that elephant one bite at a time. In the previous build vlog, the tail kit arrived to the hangar and we began inventorying the parts. A great team is committed to this 2-year project. It's happening at the Canadian Historical Aircraft Association headquarters in Windsor. The goal of this series is to share this rewarding, enjoyable, and fulfilling process, along with the inevitable challenges.
The punch has come from this side, so there's no burrs here, but there will be a burr on this side. So that side needs to be deburred.
I've been wanting to do this for a really long time, so I'm extremely excited and a little nervous to get started. Today's task is a necessary but fairly tedious one. It's called deburring. The raw parts from the factory have rough edges or burrs, which the kit builder needs to remove before assembly. There are a lot of edges that need to be processed and worked on. Perry and his brother John are here to lend their experience, skill, and mentorship to lead us through this work session. Before starting, John gave us a rundown of the tasks and the tools.
This is a part that's just been through a punch die, right? These are all sheared edges, and you can tell that they're very rough. And inconsistencies in this edge will eventually lead to a fatigue crack that will, cause a failure of the part. We don't want that. We've got some little bitty files for the little holes. We've got sandpaper. We've got larger files. The main tool is this deburring wheel over here. As this is spinning, you can hold the part up against there and it'll remove the burr and polish the edge. You can't work one spot too much because it gets too hot. So work this for a bit and work somewhere else, let it cool off. With the polishing wheel, I don't think we can do a lot of damage. More than removing too much material would be heating the part up. And it loses its temper and it becomes soft. There's a great deal of metallurgy behind this as well. So.
Now we're obviously doing this with a pretty big team, but the vast majority of Van's aircraft are built by a single person, so there's no reason that you can't do this alone.
This is probably the point in the whole process where it just takes hours and hours and hours to do this. You don't need a great number of people to actually assemble it.
It's real easy to do this wrong and screw something up. We're literally taking metal off of metal. There's a point where you can fix it, and there's a point where you're gonna have to order a replacement part.
Well, don't assume anything, that's right. If you're in doubt at all, ask somebody, because we're here. We're here to help.
Perry and John made us a sort of template so we'd know what a finished part would look and feel like.
So we made a standard sample here. This edge is as sheared, so you can have a good look at that. And you go to number 2, and it's been polished, but you can still see defects along the edge. Number 3, there's no defects along the edge yet. However, the corners are still sharp, right? And then 4 gives you just a reference to see, what it should look like when it's done.
So I think the second line in section 1 of the manual talked about mitigating frustration. So I thought that was pretty interesting, that they know that they need to warn you. I'm just going to stop myself right there. You can also expect this to be the most enjoyable, fulfilling, and rewarding thing you've ever done as you build yourself a very special personal airplane. But yeah, anything awesome is not going to be easy. So I'm already kind of frustrated because I just want to find that part in here to confirm which is the inside and the outside. I'm pretty sure I know what it is. I found 009001B, which is that part. Now don't get me wrong, the instruction manual is very thorough and clear. And in fact, the first 5 sections are set up just to get you started and into the right headspace. And as Perry puts it,
The instructions and the prints are so good, and the parts are so well made that, you know, basically anybody can do it. So
ultimately I found the info on the part I was looking for. All right, job one. I'm gonna be peeling off some plastic and transferring part numbers off of labels. My penmanship is typically pretty bad, so I'm gonna try to be slow and clear with my writing.
Did you do any good job, Steve?
Hope so. 901-L-1.
It's all wrong.
It's all wrong. Do it again.
Start over. We're gonna
Plastic back
now
on.
we need a new R00901L1.
Dave's been there for a lot of great flight shops moments, and we have an awesome dynamic.
You got your feet on the brakes?
Yeah.
So we'll spool up until you don't hear a pitch change. Roughly 10 to 12 seconds.
Contact!
This is obviously the other side where the die,
Came through
Yeah.
the inside.
you can feel it, it's pretty obvious.
You definitely want the right tool for the job. Makes it a whole lot easier. So this is a proper deburring tool, and it's working like a treat. Whereas I had just gone over this with just a drill bit and my hands, and it wasn't quite as effective.
The idea is just to remove the burr, not to make the hole larger or to cut a bevel in.
This is really thin material, so one quick, simple pass, and it polishes it right up. Nice and easy. Lots of parts to be deburred.
Sure wouldn't want somebody to have to do this all by themselves.
Now I understand why it took you 3 years, Perry. Wow.
There's all these parts, and there's a lot of stuff you have to do, and a lot of individual little steps that are easy to screw up, and it's hard to have confidence to know you're doing it right. But between teamwork and consulting mentors, along with careful review of the documentation, things are much less daunting.
A lot of us have never, like, this is completely out of any spectrum of something we've done before, right? Even if we're, you know, even if you're mechanically oriented, this is a whole different ball game, right? It's different parameters, different specifications. You can't, it's not just good enough, it has to be right or not, right? And a lot of us don't have the, have never witnessed, you know, we don't have a reference.
I had two occupations. I was a school teacher and a farmer, which sounds like a strange mix, but I did them both. And
well, farmers are known to be adaptable and ingenuitive, right? And
well, you have to work with your hands.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah, and you have to be kind of inventive and solve problems or whatever.
And I mean, Dennis is being pretty humble. Just take a look at the workbenches that he built for us to get the job started. He's been there right since the very beginning.
We're fortunate in that we have a lot of people with a great deal of experience that will teach us who are new at it.
This is Perry's beautiful RV7. Now, it's obviously polished, so he adopted a specific technique that a lot of builders have also been using. Now, there's different schools of thought on this one, so let me know in the comments what you think.
And the idea here is to keep the metal protected everywhere but where you need to work on it, which is the rivet lines.
So I'm just taking the edge off the soldering iron that we're melting like we thought it was rounded, but I don't know if the camera can see it, but it still did. There's a bit of a scratch there, that one that Dave just did. It was pretty cool to see the team starting to find their stride on this first work session, and to be clear, all of us were a little bit intimidated at the beginning of the night, but as we got going, we really started to feel it coming together.
Voila.
We're debating on the blue plastic coating. Are we in a place of diminishing returns to be spending all this time melting off the solder lines for the rivets because we're not going to polish this airplane? Are we potentially scratching it even when we try to round off the soldering iron? At the end of the day, this is one of those things, I guess, that the builder community has like adopted this method, and it is an amazing way to keep a perfect airplane perfect. If you're going to polish it, we're not going to polish it, and it will save a significant amount of time not to do that. Spirits are high, and everyone's working really hard. It's important, though, with a job this big, that you find joy in the process. Perry, having built his RV7 years ago, put it all in perspective.
I really enjoyed the build, and I think if you ask any builder if they enjoyed it, they'll tell you the same thing. It's just great fun. When I took it out of the garage, you know, we put it on a flatbed to bring it over here, I really got emotional. I couldn't believe it. Yeah, I was really emotional. It's like seeing your child leave home, right? Kind of the same thing. And all of a sudden it's an empty garage. You're not spending a lot of time there, and you're not working on something that you love there. You know?
When you are part of a thing this intimately, you can't help but love it. Aaron and I have been working on this one piece for like an hour, and finally feeling a bit of zen. It really is just a matter of taking one thing and attacking it, focusing on it and doing the best job you can, and not thinking about the big pile of pieces that you haven't touched yet. Initially I felt like I was making a knife with the file. It just kept getting sharper, but then once you get it, kind of finish it with some sandpaper, you can really feel that I've made a rounded edge here. It's no longer like a knife. There's not really any jaggedy bits. Let's QC it. Let's see if we passed or failed.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And if you can't see any marks on the edges, no, that's excellent. Nice job.
We got an R00901-L-1 complete. Ta-da! Stay tuned to see how our first part got destroyed. And if you want to keep up on the build in more real time, follow Flight Chops on Instagram. I'm posting stories about the build and other current events.
With this gang here, we're going to make a lot of progress, but it'll probably take another couple or 3 days to finish deburring. And then the next step will go right into prime. And then once the parts are primed, then we can start assembly.
You want to talk about what happened?
Yeah,
This happens.
Yeah, this happens. Okay. And I thought I knew what I was doing, right? I'm somewhat mechanical oriented. But anyway, so on the deburring wheel here, the appropriate way to do deburr any surface is to have the wheel brushing, you know, at an oblique angle to the part, so it can't grab the part, right? The worst it can do is push the part away like this.
Yeah.
So somehow, somewhere, I held the part instead of like this. I must have held it like this. It caught, right? It took a chunk out of the wheel first, so it caught, and it compressed the part. It was, you know, it's fairly springy. It compressed it, and the wheel grabbed it and you know, pulled it into me and hit me here, and it bounced about 40 feet. So it left a mark.
Left a mark.
Yeah. So we had to buy a new part. That was kind of scrap after that.
That's one of our casualties. Yeah. But this happens. We have casualties. Well, we learn. It's expected.
Thanks for sticking around if you made it to the end, and in the comments, please let us know anything else you'd like to know about the build process. And if you're going to be at OSH, definitely check out the schedule at flightchops.com, and if you can make it to the Vans booth, you got a chance to win a flight. And until next time, keep your flight chops sharp.
So we're going to save this as a trophy, right? Yeah. I mean, right, it's a learning lesson for everybody.
Well, for sure. That's why we keep it. It's a great teaching
It's a teaching tool, and, you know, not very expensive lesson. Nobody got hurt. I guess it's good that you have glasses on and so on. Yeah. Cool.